Time to set the stage with the lights off. Let the little nigga breathe till the fight's lost. You ain't never like the room with the bright sauce. Hail Mary, they despise what the light brought. Let them roach niggas bleed if they can't see. sa.neter TV, what you can't be. They say that murder on my mind, now they can't breathe. Take a picture of the crew, that's your last peep. Oh, I need me your love, yeah, that's just me. Keep them jumping like some frogs, so they might believe what the sun say. And they don't really wanna bleed from the gunplay. And like mine, nigga smoking weed on the one-way street, nigga. Yeah, we see we outside with it. Pull up to the base like we might be with it on guard. Side these niggas like bullshit and they fraud. Let me chop them down with the sword. Walk them down like they live bars. This the toughest you gon' be in, we too hard. And you don't really want that smoke, my G. sa.neter TV, this the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment,
bro, what are you talking about,
man? The toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. The toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Keep that off your lip before you get flipped. We got sources over here, we don't just spit. Too many bosses over here, y'all just legit. Put them niggas in the game, let them get ripped. Don't even step unless you come in with that scholarship. That economic tip, gotta make a dollar flip. And I might be next, I don't give a damn, a truth rolling with me, so I'm feeling like the son of man. Too many gon' hate, gotta make a stand. I'm just trying to tell them like you don't understand. Read them when I greet them, that's my best plan. Head first shit, I'm just saying. Nigga meet me in LA, oh you just playing. Too many be fake, what the base saying. So I tell them they don't want no smoke before they end up in the newspaper next day. Smoke, this the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. The toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. And this is it right here. The toughest you gon' ever be in. You wasn't conscious before us. Y'all niggas was asleep. We woke the sleeping giant. We did it. sa.neter TV. So stay your ass in your little bitty box where you feel safe. Cause there's motherfucking monsters over here. Real monsters.
Peace and Pan-Africanism to Brother Herman Smalls in the toughest environment you can be in.
Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another sa.neter TV House of Consciousness production. We got Xion Warchild in the building tonight. And you already know, he's in the toughest environment to be in. It's like the Apollo, the amateur night at the Apollo. When you do bad, the people in the audience will let you know. But if you do good, they're going to thumb you up. And Xion always do good with his information. He's one of the brothers, I can tell you, that is always on point. He's bringing you the info. He's showing you the sources. And he's coming with a slide presentation. What's going on, Brother Xion? How you doing?
Peace, Saw, you know what I'm saying? Elder Saw, big shout out, you know what I'm saying, to the godfather of this thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? And peace to the chat and anybody, who's watching. Yeah, I wanted to bring forth this presentation only because, there's, two other presentations. I have to bring the other perspective, you know what I'm saying? We had a great debate, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to all who watched that debate, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Selah Shalom, you know what I'm saying? Who, you know what I'm saying? Excellent debater. I'm not here to cry like so many other people do. Come back and cry about whatever, you know what I'm saying? That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to just bring, you know what I'm saying, out the information without, you know what I'm saying, the other opposing argument. We heard the opposing argument. We heard, you know what I'm saying, 2 parts, a series of what he brought forth, you know what I'm saying, very eloquently spoken, you know what I'm saying, although I, you know what I'm saying, do indeed object. Here is the other side, okay, of the story, the other side. And we're going to be showing the layers here, you know what I'm saying, because sometimes it's very easy for us to make a presumption. We, you know what I'm saying, we take one variable and we take the next variable and we make a presumption, but we're not seeing the layers, right, which produce certain variables to begin with. And so that's why I think scholarship is very important. You know what I'm saying? I'm very grateful for my education, you know, and being from Long Island, you know what I mean? We had great education. You know, I'm a brag for LI. most, you know what I'm saying? Long Island, New York, you know what I'm saying, brothers, you know what I'm saying?
You don't say Long Island, brother. You say Strong Island, brother.
Long Island all day.
If you're from Long Island, you're supposed to know that. Strong Island.
I always say Strong Island, but I'm trying to be all, you know, politically correct.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Strong Island, big shout out to Crime Dance, you know what I'm saying? Money Ton, you know what I'm saying? You know, you know what I'm saying? Port Knox, you know what I mean? The Dell, all of my people, you know what I mean, over there. And that's why I do the whole, you know, Wu-Tang thing too, because you know,
where you at now? What city you in?
I'm in Syracuse, you know what I'm saying? I'm up here, you know what I'm saying, with Captain Lasagna over here.
Oh, it's cold up here.
Yeah, I'm up here now.
I'm up there in Syracuse right now, brother.
Yeah, I'm it's cold up here too.
Yeah. I got people up there, man.
Right. Yeah. Big shout out to Captain Lasagna, ISUPK here. You know what I'm saying? Those are my brothers, you know what I'm saying? I frequently, you know what I'm saying, stop by and check them out, you know what I mean? And yeah, you know what I mean? What's the other brother's name? I forget his name. But yeah, so that's what I want to do. I want to do tonight. I want to bring you the presentation. I want to show you some layers. I want to show you how we take a text. It's like, you know, how Jabari and these dudes be brought. I am, you know, amazed by their wisdom and by the doctor, you know what I'm saying, brother Reggie, you know what I'm saying, how they are able to break down the comedic, you know what I'm saying, and showing, you know what I'm saying, how you can, you know, extract certain information and understand the writers and who's the interpreters and et cetera, et cetera. They go, it's very layered. And this is what I'm saying that most people don't think about when we look at the Septuagint, the early translations of the Bible that were, you know what I'm saying, translated into Greek from either the Aramaic or Syriac into Greek. We don't have those old texts besides, you know, the scrolls of Qumran, you know what I mean, we go back to the 1st and 2nd century. But when we get to, you know, the Greek translations is what mostly we have, the Masoretic and all of that stuff. People often presume that because it's written in Greek, that it's written by Greek writers. And this is what I want to show you guys, that doesn't necessarily, just because I'm from Long Island, I have, you know, a very good, you know, to what I presume to be a very good articulation of the English language, understanding. I know a little Spanish. I know a little Chinese, you know what I'm saying? I know a little daggone, you know, being from New York, you know what I'm saying?
Hold on for a minute. Shout out to Malachi Maccabee. Hey, Malachi, man, you gotta have a little discipline though, my brother.
Yeah,
you're nice, but you gotta calm down. Look at my channel. When I knew it was gonna get hit, I knew they was gonna target me again. You see,
what happened?
You only see 65 people in the building. That's because of Rakufu that day when he was going crazy with him and Punk. And I told him, I said, yo, they're gonna hit me every time they take me out. They put, you know, because people hit me up. Yo, sorry, I ain't get no I didn't get no link, brother. They didn't send me the link. And so they gonna keep hitting me like that every time he go crazy.
Right.
Not only him, but anybody, man. That's why when you go crazy and you're doing all that profanity on the channel, you know, man, if I do it, this is my channel. my channel. I
Right.
mean, I don't want to do it. I try not to do it.
Right.
And I try my best to hold back myself. But if I do it, it's my
You make your own stuff. You can't blame nobody else but yourself, right?
Nobody else. There you go, brother. It's my channel. So, but other than that, I try not to do it. I try my best to chill. You know?
Right.
But it is what it is. So let me know when you're ready to get it in.
So real quick, I see my brother Malachi Maccabee in the chat. You know,
and you know why they're in the chat, right?
Well, yeah. I'm not gonna pay attention to them once I get to my slide.
They are in the chat because soon as you make a mistake, brother.
But that's what they did. Yo, listen, Selah threw up the cap early before the debate even started. He threw it up. You know what I'm saying? The air. He called the Thundercats. He threw the Thundercats daggone hole, you know what I'm saying, straight up right before the whole debate started. So I knew they was going to be in full numbers. You know what I'm saying? It's all good, man. You know what I'm saying? I stand on my own, and it is what it is. But here. Watch this. Context. I want you guys to pay attention. This is the Ge'ez right here in the Lord's Prayer that we see in the New Testament. Apatachinoi, yabesame yametano, simia kodes, magista temta, for quite besame and donak, induwu bem datanyu, letin daratinin, sitanzari yabelalachinim, yakubel. I am good with the King's English. I'm good with a lot of other things. You know what I'm saying? Yakul belen, yakul endemnel abot ward vetina aktaban, kekefu adenin inji, mengishatanatana. There's a lot of them. Why do I bring that up? You know what I'm saying? Not just to show that, you know, I know a little bit of Ge'ez, you know what I'm saying, from the liturgical, right? But there is a syntax difference. So when you read it in the English, when you read one portion of the Lord's Prayer, it says, lead us not into temptation. Here's the difference in how the syntax is in the Semitic. In the Ge'ez, the syntax changes how it says, into temptation we shall not enter. You see why it was so important to change it into the Ge'ez? Because it brings back the actual Semitic syntax, which brings back the actual context. All right. So let's get it in. You share my screen? Yeah.
All right. Doc.
Yes, sir.
Doc Spencer, 37. He says, "Sir, get Charleston White on the show."
Nah.
You got Charleston White on the show.
He already had one.
White charges $5,000 or sometime $3,000. He was going to charge me $3,000, and I'll be damned if I pay $3,000 for you Negroes to just get all the benefits and don't want to put up no money and don't want to support. Because if everybody was to say, you know what, let's get Charleston White, let's all put up something like $10, $20 and donate, but y'all don't do that. And so that's why we got the same regular people. A lot of times, a lot of the new people, they charging now because they coming on YouTube just for the money. They coming on just to make their money. And I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at them at all. You know what I'm saying? I'm not mad at them at all. If you can get your money and get paid for doing this, then get paid. I'm not mad at you. But don't tell me to bring people on and then y'all not supporting. I'll be damned if I pay $30,000 out my pocket and y'all just sit your butt there and don't, give up nothing and don't support the channel. I'm not doing that. I could have been had Charleston White long time ago. Didn't have him. So here's your presentation, brother.
Right.
Get it in and
all right, let's get it in. So I want to give a big old shout out to my, to my baby boy. Hold on.
You're gonna make it bigger, right?
His birthday was this. Yep. So yeah, my boy, just had his little bar mitzvah and everything. Big shout out to LOJS, Line of Judah Society, Rabbi Wyndham Yadam, Ross Iodonis, who should really, I don't know why the community, he's a gem, you know what I mean? He's one of those master teachers that should be recognized. So I want to give him recognition. So let's get into this, right? I want to talk about how this brother, not how this brother, but how we tend to perceive.
Before you go in, let me show you what gets you blocked. This is what gets you blocked. When you think you're doing side stuff to me, you're not. DMG actually pays his debaters at Paradigm Shift. Just saying. Right. Okay, well, now you blocked for coming in here being disrespectful to me and my people. Now your butt is blocked. Have a good day, bro. Go ahead, man. I ain't gonna cut you off no more. I'm glad I did that before you
Right.
started. Go ahead.
All right.
People don't know when you're being disrespectful.
So once again, here's the statement. I'm going to go through that part. You know what I'm saying? Most of what I did in the debate, I'm just going to skim through some of that. I've already established a lot of that. But what I didn't get to, there was some really key citations from academic sources, Oxford, you know what I'm saying, Cambridge. I got tons of sources that actually discuss this. You know what I'm saying? There are no sources that say that Ethiopian Christianity is a product or a mere product of a Greco-Roman. It's so layered because there are other influences. So to say that, to try to encapsulate Ethiopia as a sole product of Greco-Roman Hellenization, which would be that's what it means to be a product, right? The product of Rome is a gross simplification, right? Erases centuries of independent, antiquitous, and theological development. We're talking about cultures like Egypt. We're talking about cultures as Nubia. We're talking about cultures as Southern Arabia, Sheba, Saba, right? We're talking about Assyria, you know what I'm saying, and also Armenia, and how all of those cultures were key in the development of, you know what I'm saying, pre-Christian Ethiopia, right? And so while there is no argument, I'm not arguing, the title was never about whether it was influenced, right? Influence does not denote being a product of. Like I said, I can speak multiple different. I have influences from Jamaica. I have influences from my Puerto Rican brothers, my Haitian brothers, my Dominican brother. Being from Long Island, you're gonna get, you know, saying my Italian. I say things that sound like I'm speaking Italian. That does not make me a product of Italy. You know what I'm saying? I'm a product of Long Island. You know what I'm saying? And there are other key factors, other layers to what influenced and what produced me, right? The same way with something, especially something as old as the Ethiopian culture and Ethiopian people in antiquity and history. But, you know what I'm saying, the Bible in and of itself, right? So going a little bit further, you know what I'm saying, we already see that Ethiopia, you know what I'm saying, was considered prior to Greco-Roman Christianity, you know what I'm saying, in Greece, they had a identity that was their own. And they looked at them. These depictions prove Ethiopia was not invisible to Greek imagination. They didn't impose their identity upon Greece through force and through might. They imposed their identity on Greece through their connections and their communications and their identity within the Nile Valley and within the Mediterranean. You know what I'm saying? Because these people were traveling back and forth and trading and, you know what I'm saying, getting involved in many different aspects of the life of that large geographic region. So, you know what I'm saying? Everybody knew the players on the field and they knew each other, right? And they spoke about each other. This is how they looked at, you know what I'm saying, Memnon and Aethiops. Please don't knock on my door right now. I'm in the middle of it. Go away. So, yeah. So claiming Ethiopian Christianity as a product of Greco-Roman Christianity, Hellenization, you know what I'm saying, definition of Hellenization. Let's understand this. Hellenization means a deep assimilation into the Greek worldview and identity. It is not just using Greek words or having contact with Greek culture. It is adopting Greek philosophy, language, categories as a foundation of theology and practice. Right. So that means that the language within the liturgy, like just like Rome used Latin and any church that came out of it, they used Latin in a lot of their liturgical singing and stuff like that. That is a product of Rome. Right. Or even using Greek text, straight up using the straight Greek text, reading it from the Greek text. That is a product of Greco, you know what I'm saying, Hellenism. So Rome, Constantinople, the defined Greek Christology. So when they came in, you know what I'm saying, in the third century, They started just to make distinctions, categories. These people were living their lives and believing and following and hearing from this one and that one, from different areas of Syria, from Egypt, from you know what I'm saying, you know. So you had people who were missionaries going all out, all over the place, and going to different people and bringing what they thought, you know what I'm saying, that Christianity was. And oftentimes that Christianity that was received by those people, like the Egyptians in Alexandria, of course, the way they viewed God and divine culturally prior to Christianity will be transposed onto how they viewed Christianity as they converted. It's not that difficult to understand. Somebody brings me something like, just like when I was in the debate, I brought up, you know what I'm saying, I use gang analogy, and I use street analogy because I come from the streets. In order to you know, I wasn't raised in the streets, you know what I'm saying? I won't do that to my parents, but I came up in the streets, you know what I'm saying? That was my choice. But because of that influence, I can look at something from a perspective, and I have to, you know what I'm saying, make equivalences from my experience. Do you understand what I'm saying? So how Greeks looked at Christianity from the Pauline, right? Those who followed Paul, quote unquote, whether you believe the legend or the character or not, we know that there was Christianity propagated into Greece and in Rome, Corinth, and you know what I'm saying, Ephesus, and you know what I'm saying, what have you, right? We know that you know what I'm saying, was received by the people a certain way, by those people, a cultural way that more aligned to how they view divine stuff, and the same with how the Egyptians view. And we see that actually in scripture. We see that actual dichotomy happen between Paul and the followers of Apollos. Over the past no, I'm not going to read that. I did that before. That was just an overview. Hellenism, the objective form as it is now understood, is a relatively recent term. The great scholar Droysen was the first to attach its present significance to it about years ago, in connection to Second Maccabees. The Second Maccabees, what was going on there? There was a war between Israelites and Semitics versus Romans. We're talking about 1st century, 2nd century, you know what I'm saying, a text that is in the Roman Catholic canon, you know what I'm saying, not in the King James or the recent King James. I think it was in the 1611, right? So we're seeing that when people start to remove things and change things according to their text, it's usually relevant to the doctrines that they're trying to project. Same way that the Roman Catholics removed, you know what I'm saying, Enoch, Jubilees, and other texts, you know what I'm saying, you know, Jasher, all of those texts that the Ethiopians said, no, we ain't getting rid of that. We're not throwing that away, right? We're gonna preserve every book, even if they contradict each other, right? According to the Hegelian, the new civilization furthered above all the expeditions of Alexander the Great, right? The Greco-Macedonian colonial rule, which followed a civilization which was shaped by the gradual spread of the Greek language, right? So let me get to some other stuff here. So this is the source here. Does it make sense to speak about Hellenization, Christianity? See, I use sources that are direct and specific to the actual subject matter. What often ends up happening is you see somebody bring up a whole bunch of sources that are about key parts, subtext to the story, like, oh, this person, Caesar Borgia came from this, that, and the other source, blah, 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 blah. That is the source about his origin. That is not the source related to arguing the subject matter. So if the subject matter is about whether Ethiopian Christianity is Greco-Romanized, right, or Hellenized by its influence, then you would find sources specific to that topic. If you can't, then you have to get Gallo. Crazy work. Examples of religious control via Hellenization. Egypt, Serapis cult. Here we're going to show you some examples of what Hellenization is. Egypt, you know what I'm saying? When the Romans, Greco-Romans came over and took over Egypt, what did they try to do? They created Serapis. Serapis is a connection between the Ptolemies, unified the Greek-Egyptian god, right? Between Osiris, right? Or Apis, and daggone, you know what I'm saying, Apollos. They smush their gods together and say, here, this is what you're going to worship. This is what you're going to worship. Right? It wasn't by choice, right? Syria's local Semitic gods were identified with Zeus or Apollos. You know what I'm saying? Emperors themselves were deified, blending Greco-Roman divine categories with local tradition. Judaism and Christianity, Hellenistic philosophy, shaped debates in early Christianity. Logos theology in John's gospel, while Rome tried to control Jewish Christian, right? So here, what is Hellenism? The definition, I already gave it to you before. Refers to the spread of Greek culture, language, philosophy, and religion. Language, culture, philosophy, and religion across the Mediterranean and Near East after Alexander the Great's conquest, 4th century. Yes, their conquest did take over Egypt, right? You know what I'm saying? Didn't mean that there weren't still Egyptians in there who still had their own ideas and practices, right? That would be crazy to assert that because they were under Roman rule, that there weren't those who were, you know what I mean, rogue soldiers. You know what I'm saying? Resistance, freedom fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like hail to the nah, right? So the purpose of blending created a shared cultural framework that this is how they try to, you know what I'm saying, interject their control into by doing these things. But they had to force their language, their philosophy, and their religion and their culture onto the people. So we'll see a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? Rome as the heir of Hellenism after conquering. So Rome after conquering Greece in the 2nd century, Rome absorbed Greek philosophy, art, and religion. And one of the things was the tactic of Hellenism from the Greeks. They took that as a model and continued that practice of Hellenizing other cultures by going in there and injecting Greek gods, Greek divinity, Greek theological ideology, you know what I'm saying, into the other person's, the subject people's religion. They absorb. Resistance is futile, right? They balled out, right? Political control, and if somebody rejected then they would remove them. They would take their power, their prestige, their positions of authority from them, and these people would have to go running for their lives or be, you know what I'm saying, dealt with. Like, come on, let's talk about it. So Ethiopian Christianity canon, Ethiopia preserved texts like Enoch Jubilees. They rejected the Roman embedding Afro-Semitic scripture into its Bible. Dual Sabbaths, right? Here's the practices, right? They kept the Sabbaths, right? Which Rome rejected. They kept the fasting cycles and continuity of Judaic and Nile Valley heritage because they were Nile Valley. And they had a large connection with Syriac and Judaic people through the Incent Road. There was large history of Judaism going back pre-1st century to, you know what I'm saying, early like BC, or, you know what I'm saying, closer to the 1st century. You know what I'm saying, that Judaism was because Ethiopians were trading and traveling back and forth through the Incent Road and the Nile Valley, obviously, right? So practice dual Sabbaths, right? Theology, Myophysite, Tuahito. Tuahito means unity. U-N-I-T-Y, that's a unity. It's unity. What does unity mean, sir? You know what I'm saying? To all of those who come to divide and conquer. You know what I mean? To try to destroy a person's or people's legacy, their own identity, their own culture. Like I said, and I asked before, who sent you, right? Now, you know what I'm saying? Christology reflects African concepts of unity and kingship, not Greek dualism. This is what the difference was. Myopichism more represented. See, it was a term that was coined during the Chaldean Council. They sat down and said, "Well, what would you call the thing that those peasant Egyptians and Semitics are practicing?" I'll call it myophysitism. Okay. Well, what do you mean? So we deal with the dual nature. Yes. So this is diaphysitism. Okay, down with myophysitism. Kill anybody who practices it now. Because now we just distinguish with Greek words the difference between already practices. You know what I'm saying? Already present practices. Right? But we're defining it in the area of Christology now. That's why they sat down, because we have to figure out what we believe and shoot down what anybody else believes and force them to believe what we believe. That's Hellenism. Pre-Christian deities like Marim, war god, and Ashtar, Venus, were interpreted into Christian categories: Exhibier, saints, angels, showing cultural continuity. Art and ritual, Ge'ez, liturgy, Zima, chant, rock-hewn churches, uniquely Ethiopian expressions of faith, not Hellenistic imports. So let's go forward a little bit. Hellenization imposing Greek categories. We already went through that. In a sense of the contrast, right? Ethiopianizing, translating Christianity into Ethiopia's Afro-Semitic worldview. How do we do that? I'm going to show you, right? So the Greeks often evoked Ethiops or Ethiopia in their myths, associating with divine favor and exotic prestige. So prior to Greco-Romans trying to control, you know what I'm saying, this part of the world, the Greeks had a freaking love for Ethiopians. They were like, yo, these dudes are awesome. The gods love them. Zeus Ethiops. We will call our god Zeus Ethiops because these Negroes are dope. We like them. Greek mythology repeatedly portrays Ethiopia as a land beloved by the gods. This romanticization reflects how Ethiopia's cultural, religious stature influenced Greek imagination, rather than being a passive product of Greek invention, right? So just like my brother Easy Band said, he said, you know what I'm saying? You saying, oh, the black people, you know what I'm saying, took the, you know what I'm saying, copying the white people who copied the black people. Big shout out to Easy Bands for that, right? Mithraism in Rome before Christianity origins derived from the Persian god. This is what they were worshiping during the time that Christianity was being formed by the East Asia, you know what I'm saying, Southern Asia, or you know what I'm saying, Eurasian, you know what I'm saying, areas like Armenia and such, and Egypt. Churches in Egypt, churches in Nubia, you know what I'm saying, and churches in Syria, right? So then Paul went into Greek. That's what caused the Pauline. So when you say Greco-Roman, right? We're talking even present day when we discuss the Roman Catholic Church as opposed to the old world Byzantine Church, right? Established. Right? You know, during Constantine's time. You know what I'm saying? What we're talking about are those who came, and they are specifically categorized as Pauline Christianity people. Now, anything that was Matthew, Mark, James, and you see what I'm saying? Was not Apollos, Cleo, was not considered Pauline. Why? Because they went and preached to different people in different areas who had different belief systems. And their belief systems oftentimes interject and colored how they viewed and practiced this new religion that they converted to. It is not rocket surgery, y'all. We're just understanding a little bit about social behavior, social and cultural transmission, right? Worship centered on Mithras, right? So they were worshiping Mithra when the early Christians of the apostolic period were building up and being persecuted by the Romans, right? So Christianity arrived in Africa. Did this already in the debate. Y'all go back. The fallacy of Greek by default logic. Again, I will emphasize this. Greek as a language of transmission must mean Greek is as a cultural religious identity. That is a fallacy of equivocation. It occurs when a word concept is used in two different senses, but treated as the same. Okay. Y'all smart. You know what I mean? You know, the HOK, you know what I'm saying, audience. Y'all get it. Analogy, saying hip hop is British because it's English, confuses language of expression with cultural origin. Right? Hip hop is not from Great Britain, obviously. Right? Contrast in Miaphysite, Egyptian doctrine, Miaphysite, Coptic, Ethiopian Christ is one united, UNITY, right? Tuwahido, right? That's what united nature. They're flagging here by even naming themselves Tuwahido. They're saying we don't agree with your dualistic demigod Jesus. You know what I'm saying? It reflects Egyptian religious continuity where gods like Osiris, Horus embody unity of divine and human realms, not split. So let's run forward a little bit. I want to get down to, so here, statues. So why do we see statues and I'm not going to use that term. You know what I'm saying? There is a practice that comes from Ganymede in Greco-Roman history. And that practice was transposed over to the Roman Catholic Church. And this is why there's so many lawsuits about, you know what I'm saying, children and such, child abuse and such. And we're not going to go into that. However, that was a practice that was transposed, the altar boy, etc. You know what I'm saying, the cupbearer, etc. That comes from Greek, you know what I'm saying, pre-Christian. It was adopted into their monastic practices, right? Their statues that came. Why would they read the Bible and still use idols? Because they weren't accepting the Semitic, Afro-Semitic practices of the Judaic and the Syriac and the Semitic, Afro-Semitic people. They were going to interject their Roman, Greco-Roman practices. That is Hellenism. When you see statues of Mary and statues of Jesus and three-dimensional carved figures in those churches and what have you, that is Greco-Roman. But you will not see that in Ethiopian. Why? Because they rejected it. Also, further proving that they had their own identity that was not compromised or influenced by Hellenized Roman churches or Greek Orthodox churches, but that was if you want to say it was daggone influenced, it was influenced by Judaic and Semitic cultures. Okay? So what we're not going to do is act like there aren't other people on the playing field who are influential, who are, you know what I'm saying, bonded in the shaping of the culture of the people in this area, right? Hellenized churches, statues and carving, churches influenced by Greco-Roman culture, Catholic, Byzantine, Orthodox, incorporated statues, reliefs, carved imagery. Greek artistic heritage, sculpture was central to Hellenistic art. It was the way they were able to portray people's gods according to their images. This is where the placing of the white face begins on other people's gods. It begins with their art. They were serious about their artisans. Artisans and artworks and sculptures and paintings were extremely important to early Greco-Roman Christianity. Why? Because it was their way of depicting and controlling the narrative and depicting themselves as the gods of other people. Get into their minds that their gods are you, right? Philosophical symbolism statues were seen as incarnational symbols reflecting Greco-Roman dualism. Material versus the divine, not the material and the divine united. Tuwahido. Say it right, brother. Right? So here we see in Matthew, we see the difference in thinking. We can see the psycho, and this came from an actual debate, and I got this slide from this religious studies guy who actually had a whole debate on this, right? And he brought forth that you could clearly see between Matthew and Acts the difference in how the Jews and the Semitic people, you know what I'm saying, all the people around that area, Canaanites and, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, Samaritans and all of them, you know what I'm saying, would view a act of a miracle, right? You know what I'm saying? Just in that showing it's a comparative of how their conjoined perspective, their cultural perspective perceived one instance of a miracle, and how Acts, you know what I'm saying, 14 and 11, right? So in this one, the crowd saw a miracle, they were afraid, and they glorified the Father God, the Creator, who had given such authority to the man, to the vessel. They immediately saw the unity between the divine and the vessel that was, you know what I'm saying, that was being utilized to produce this miracle, right? But in Acts, when they saw Paul and Barnabas do miracles, they immediately called them Zeus and Hermes, because that is how they thought. They said, no, these are not men. These can't be men. There has to be Zeus and Hermes. That is what Hellenization is. And that is a key issue in the text, a matter in the text that reflects the difference in thinking, cultural thinking of two different people. Factionalism in the church. You know what I'm saying? The brother brought up the arc of what do you call it? The apostolic wars. What were they warring over? You know what I'm saying? Just like back, like now we got all these different non-denominational churches. We have the Baptists, the Methodists, the Episcopals, you know what I'm saying? The Roman Catholics, we got Jehovah's Witnesses, we got, you know what I'm saying, this, that, and the other, right? We got all these different views and worldviews and of Christianity. It was no different back then, maybe just a few less. You know what I'm saying? Now there's so many people on the planet that got different views. There's millions and tons of different perspectives on how to view the Bible. But back then, it wasn't one worldview, and it wasn't Roman to begin with. Right? So in 1 Corinthians, Pauline doctrine. Paul goes to the Greeks, begins by reporting a concrete local complaint. Members of Chloe's church. Chloe went to the Samaritans' household, informed him that the community was divided into parties aligned with particular leaders. Oh, they were already daggone separating, definitely from Paul, because a lot of them didn't agree with what Paul was teaching. Read the text, right? Apollos actually agreed with certain parts, but didn't want to freaking preach it like he was preaching to the Greco-Romans. So it says that Apollos, an eloquent Alexandrian teacher, Alexandrian, meaning he was Egyptian and gave a Greek name. I showed you guys that before, that just because somebody has a Greek name or uses Greek text doesn't mean that these people are Greek. The Greeks were the ones who categorized and named and recorded this history, and they wrote it in Greek. And so therefore they're talking about non-Greek people in a Greek language. And we'll get to that, right? The eloquent Alexandrian teacher and Cephas Peter was represent different social and rhetorical capitals. Rhetorical, right? So how they preached was different than the other one preached. Paul's collective rhetorical aims to reassert apostolic norms and communal unity, not to declare an irreparable schism. So Paul, even though his views were way different than how, you know what I'm saying, even, you know, the original apostles, you know what I'm saying, the disciples of Christ were teaching, you know what I'm saying, he still wanted to try and remain united, right, with the apostolic, right? So Paul's corrective aims, right? Corinthians 1 and 11 through 12 show an early Christianity contained internal competition and local factionalism that undermines the simplistic claim that Pauline Christianity was the only or uncontested form of first century churches. So that means that there were other churches. Oh, it wasn't just what was taught to the Romans. So we hear Syriac church, founded in traditions, holds that the church of Antioch was established by Apostle Peter. around 34 AD to 37. Significance: Antioch was where followers of Jesus were first called Christians. Acts 11 through 26, verse 26. Language: Syriac, a dialect of Aramaic. You know what I'm saying? Making it one of the earliest non-Greek Christian traditions. Non-Greek traditions. The Syriac Orthodox Church is a part of the Oriental Orthodox. We have to know the difference between the Oriental and the Eastern, and then the Roman Orthodoxy. They are different churches. Just because it says Orthodox does not mean that they are the same. They're different, right? Yes, Jesus and all of that stuff is all, but one has an earlier beginning and has different ways of looking at their divine ideologies and stuff and scripture and how they relate to text, and the other transverse, right? Founded tradition says that St. Mark brought Christianity to Alexandria around 42. Significance: Alexandria quickly became a major center of Christian theology with its famous architectural school producing figures like Origen and Athanasius. He brought up Athanasius, right? Athanasius. And Athanasius is not Greek. He's Egyptian, like actual Egyptian. You know what I'm saying? Nubian Egyptian. You know what I mean? Coptic, first stage of ancient Egyptian, later replaced the Arabic, right? Legacy or the Aramaic or Arabic, right? Coptic, right? Final stage of ancient Egypt, right? Egyptian. The Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria is the mother church of Egyptian Christianity, right? So it is the mother church, right? The Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria is the mother church of Egyptian Christianity today, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a mother church, like the other brother asserted, a mother church of Ethiopia. It's not a mother church of Ethiopia. It's a contemporary, because they did different things. Irenaeus demonstrated from the beginning. Irenaeus demonstrated of the apostolic preaching supplies a model of how early Christian claimed apostolic authority through local traditions and texts, a model Ethiopia used to legitimate its own as canon liturgy. So now I want to get down to this, right? Greek ideological perspective, divinity, right? Versus the Egyptian ideological perspectives. I also have a slide that shows the difference between the Ethiopian perspectives and the Egyptian perspective. If it was such a child or a daughter of Egyptian Christianity, then why are they so distinct? Just because they were the Alexandrian fathers, you know what I'm saying, and bishops anointed the Ethiopian bishops, didn't mean that the Ethiopian bishops still didn't do their own thing. It was just the Alexandrian bishops were the ones who anointed Ethiopian bishops. And that was institutional. You know what I'm saying? Influence, institutional authority, not cultural and theological authority. I'm going to show you why. All right. So, like I said, it was scribble scrabble. I'm trying to paint you a picture. We're not going to oversimplify, because we're academics. We're scholars in here, right? We're not children who, you know what I'm saying, who are watching a cartoon, right? We're actually having a comparative study here. Right? We're getting down to the layers and trying to perceive the layers. Even if we don't, I'm not here to proselytize whether Christianity is good or bad. I'm not coming here to say, you should come to Christianity or come to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is that when we break down anything, even if you're going to break it down to dismiss it or to disprove it, let's be honest about the facts of the matter. We don't have to be rhetorical in how we dismantle something. We should be sound and credible in how we break down something. And that doesn't just come from just saying, oh, you think we're Romans. Diophysitic Christology. Christ has two distinct natures. Greco-Roman gods, Greco-Roman diophysit, right? Diophysit, right? and Zeus, supreme god who interacts, right? Perseus, Hercules, demigods, right? I bring all of this stuff out, contrast with Monophysite. The contrast, Christ is one united nature, fully divine, human, inseparable. This reflects Egyptian religious continuity, where gods like Osiris and Horus. So the Pauline went with the Greeks, and Matthew, Mark, and James and them and Peter, you know what I'm saying, went to the Syrians and the Armenians and the Egyptians and the Nubians, you know what I'm saying, Ethiopians. It's not rocket surgery, right? Language independence, coined Greek with its lingua franca. When I say lingua franca, somebody said something, oh, that comes from the French and franca, and actually it's actually a Latin word, you know what I'm saying? But it's you know, and it was formed later than this time period. However, it's just a general word that simply means a language that is spoken commonly from a large geographic region, spoken by people that's not their native tongue. Right. So like English, like, you know, a lot of people come here to America and they have to learn English because here in America, it is the lingua franca. That's all it means. Right. In its simplicity as a definition. Instead, Ethiopia preserved Ge'ez, a Semitic tongue rooted in South Arabian and Cushitic influences. Right. So it has some Amadic influences and it had Semitic influences. Right. Southern Arabia through Southern Arabia. This choice reflects Ethiopia's determination to maintain. Right. So let's get down to some things. I want to get down so I can show you some sources here. Persecution and establishment. I brought out the fact that they were being persecuted. The persecution of Christians by Romans show that when Christianity first began, that it had nothing to do with Romans or Greeks. And that's why they were being persecuted. That's why there was a problem. You know what I'm saying? Even though these people still wrote in Greek, you know what I'm saying, and spoke in their own native tongues, we're going to show you this, right? Ethiopian Orthodox versus Egyptian Coptic. Right? Here's the difference between even Egyptian. So if the Egyptian Coptic Church is the mother of Ethiopian Christianity, why are there so many differences here? Right? Biblical canon, 81 books, including Enoch, Jubilees, Maccabean, unique to Ethiopia. Expanded canon reflects Judaic continuity. 66 books of the Coptic Orthodox Church. So their canon has only 66. Ge'ez, liturgical language, Amharic, Tigrayan, in practice distinct chant traditions, Zehema, and liturgical music. Coptic liturgical language, Arabic, widely used Coptic chant traditions. Totally different. Strong Judaic continuity, Sabbath observance, Saturday, Sunday, circumcision, dietary laws, extensive fasting. Less Judaic continuity, Sunday only worship, circumcision, not emphasized. Fasting traditions differ. Heavily emphasized on the Virgin Mary, emphasized liturgy and hymns mention her constantly. Reverence for Mary, but less central to liturgical texts compared to Ethiopia. Deeply integrated into, right? So the monasticism deeply integrated into society by the Ethiopians, right? Preserve unique Ethiopian traditions. Monasticism in the Egyptian, monasticism strong, but more closely tied to Alexandrian theology. So they're more Egyptian in how they think about things than the Ethiopians, right? I can go on. The governance, right? Autocephalus since 1958, right? So now they've changed. Patriarchy of Alexandrian Pope Tewodros II today governs Coptic Church. It's not over the Ethiopian Church today. You know what I'm saying? If we were talking about in the ancient times, yes, Alexandria, but they weren't. The Alexandrian patriarchs were simply anointing Ethiopians as bishops. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So this is why we still have so many different cultural, you know. So here, so this right here shows one thing, and I wanted to bring out the fact that I'm not going to read through all of this stuff. I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, attention spans, differ. So Semitism and Septuagintalism in the Book of Revelation, right? This is important because the Book of Revelation is one of the most key books that they study, not necessarily, to try to figure out whether, what I'm saying? Like there are people who are gonna, try to figure out the prophecies and stuff like that. But from a academic, scholastic standpoint, studying the scripts and the text without religious dogma or perspective, we look at the book and we can see that Revelation had a deep Semitic syntax to the written Greek. So, and what did that mean? That means that when the person who wrote it wasn't really a Greek writer, and so he was trying to write in Greek, but because he spoke, his native language was Semitic, the syntax in how he spoke. It's just like, again, a Spanish person or a person from Puerto Rico knows the difference between a person who writes from a Dominican Republic or Mexican, right? Because they have a different way of using certain words and stuff like that. But then us as Americans, when we see somebody whose native tongue is Spanish or Latino, we can see that the way they write their sentence structure, and if they respond in a comment section on Facebook or something, there's something funny, we read it, it sounds crazy to us because the way they put the words together, even if you hit translate, the words don't come together the way we put our words together. You know what I'm saying? Our grammatical structure is different, and that is the syntax. So when you read a Greek text, you can see that if it's actually from a Greek writer who would be way more eloquent in writing in Greek than somebody who is native to a Semitic, Afro-Semitic tongue. You'll start seeing the syntax in that writing. Like, the person has to be Afro-Semitic or Cushitic, right? So I had 3 different sources here for that. So this 3 different sources specific to proving that Greek writing does not denote Greek writers or Greek thought, right? This one was published by Cambridge University. That's Darrell D. Smith, right? Here's another one from, this is from pages 213. This is published in 2019. Jacqueline M. Hidalgo, The Roman Empire in the Book of Revelation. This discusses how Revelation was an anti-Greco-Roman book written in Greek with all of the Semitic, Afro-Semitic syntax in it, codified, flagging, banging language, right? From the beast to the Antichrist to the 7-headed dragon to the mother of harlots. All of that, the 666 mark of the beast, all of this was political language discussing their revile for Hellenized Christianity. You know what I'm saying? This is Apostolic John of Patmos. The article surveys the study, right? Revelations, Babylon, and the beast imagery functions as a coded critiques of imperial urban power, emperor worship, and reading well established in the post-colonial empire. Studies scholarship uses Hidalgo Freisen to show that the consensus that Revelation weaponizes symbolic language against imperial ritual and economy. Whose economy? The Romans, the Greco-Romans. Wood and Naylor provide methodological caution and nuance about local variations of the imperial cult, which strengthens an argument that Revelation resists Hellenistic Roman cultural power. So when did we start thinking that every single church is Greco-Roman? What makes us oversimplify? Yes, they were a part of the story, but we're forgetting that there were other players on the field that were extremely significant to pre-Christian, pre-Greco-Roman Christianity, and also still have antiquity to this day, right? So this is why let's be honest about it. You're gonna break it down. Let's be real about it, right? So yeah, you can still argue with the context, argue with the dogma, argue that that this is not real or that is not real. That is up to you. But let's be honest about the context. This does not denote that these people were freaking in any way accepting. In fact, it shows the opposite. It shows that they were rejecting. Right? Here's another source. Historical setting written in writings of Revelation by Dr. Greg Banson. Right? So I am giving sources that are direct to my argument. Here's some more for you. Aramaic, Syriac, and Ge'ez by H.G. Poltolsky. Right? This paper intended to as a historic critical contribution to the question of Aramaic loan words in Ge'ez. Why is this important? Not going to read all through that. I want y'all to, take a look at it when you have an opportunity. The subject is large and extends into fields. It's large. It's not simple. which lie outside my competence, I shall therefore confine myself to a few points on which I believe I have been able to inform myself from primary sources. All right, so this would be a secondary source because this is a person who is making an interjection about what he studied from the primary sources. Syriac is Aramaic, but Aramaic is not necessarily Syriac. It will not do to speak of Syriac if some of the most important words are manifestly not Syriac. It will not do either. So let's go forward, man. I'm gonna show you why this is so deep. Right. And really, we should always look at text like this. You know, we actually do, and we actually don't realize that we do that. You know what I'm saying? We actually do kind of see like, yo, this person writing, you know what I'm saying? We could tell that the person is not from, you know what I'm saying, from where you from. Literal Semitic oriented translation into Ge'ez can make Hebraic word order, parallelism, and idiomatic formulas. Now, I want to get into this because, you know, just so you to open up how we look at writings. You know what I'm saying? In ancient texts, literal Semitic oriented translation into Ge'ez can make Hebraic word order, parallelism, and idiomatic formulas visible again because Ge'ez is a Semitic language with comparable synthetic resources. Parataxis, construction chain, verbless clauses. Ge'ez translation of biblical and pseudepigraphic works have long been used to illuminate fragmentary or obscure texts precisely for this reason. Ethiopic version of First Enoch and Jubilees, for example, have helped scholars interpret the Qumran. This is a source. I'm going to show y'all a source, right? Where's my source at? Got my source somewhere. It didn't pop up. All right, I'll show you. So this right here, it says, and he shook his head when I said that the Ge'ez was used to interpret specific texts from the scrolls of Qumran. It's a fact. Why did they have to? And they found that the Ge'ez version was more closely related to the text than the Greek. For this simple reason. Because if you're translating a Greek, a text written by Semitics and in Semitic syntax in Greek, you take that Greek and translate that Greek text written from Semitics into Ge'ez, back into a Semitic language. The syntax is going to come back. It's not hard. It ain't hard to tell. Semitism are Greek expressions, syntax, or idioms that reflect Hebrew or Aramaic thought patterns. Hebraic word order, Semitic idioms, translated literal Semitic conjunction use, Semitic rhetorical forms. Scholars identify them as comparing Greek constructions with Semitic originals by surveying reoccurring Hebraic patterns across the text. Let's just keep it real, right? If you don't care, you don't care. But just let's be honest when we're going to do anything. Let's really get down to the nitty. We're going to study something. Let's study it in depth and study to show ourselves approved. Semitism are Greek expressions for syntax and idioms, right? So let's go here. How scholars demonstrate Semitic author. My source is coming. How scholars demonstrate Semitic authorship or influence synthetic parallels, Greek sentences that mirror Hebrew word order or use Semitic conjunctions, lexical Semitism, Greek words used in ways that reflect Hebrew Aramaic semantics, rhetorical forms, chasemus, parallelism. That's why I know people get upset when Hebrews say, well, let's read that in the Hebrew. No, let's read that in the Hebrew. Because it's going to show you, even if it's not as perfect as maybe the original, you know what I'm saying, transcriptions, you know what I'm saying, that, you know, we don't have, or maybe it's hidden in the Vatican. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but You know what I'm saying? It would be more closely related to how it was supposed to be written and in the context that it was meant. Right? So the chiasmus parallelism proverb structures typically of Semitic literature. Translation fingerprints. When a Greek passage reads like a literal translation of a Semitic original, it suggests a Semitic source. Or but here it is, Black David Allen, New Testament Semitism. Again, another source proving my argument, the title of the debate. Right? Ethiopic, not just you know what I'm saying, sources about people's, you know what I'm saying, origins. Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying, Diagoras was born in blah blah blah, source, blah blah blah. What does that have to do with the title? Give me an academic source that actually addresses the key points of the debate. That's what we want to see. That's what I want to see. I don't know what anybody else want to see when somebody sources up. I need to know that the source is directly dealing with the subject matter. Otherwise, it's not substantive. Qumran overviews for objection relevance. Okay. Context, consult specialist studies, and Ethiopic Enoch Jubilees for direct comparison. Here's another book, right? Why Ge'ez matters for the Qumran studies. Ge'ez preserved full versions of several Jewish works, notably one Enoch and Jubilees that survived only fragmentary Hebrew Aramaic at Qumran. Only fragments of it was found, right? But the Ethiopian preserved the entirety. Ethiopic texts provide complete literary context, vocabulary. These are books that the Roman Hellenized churches, the Greek Orthodox and the Byzantine church, and even the present Roman Catholic Church still reject. And when you reject somebody's canon and they're trying to force their authority on you, to reject their canon is a daggone declaration of war. Davies, Phillips Qumran Studies, and Judith M. Liu and J.W. Rogerson, eds, the Oxford Handbook of Biblical Studies, Oxford Handbook. So, yeah, you could shake your head, but there are literal scholars, December 2025, accessed, right? You know what I'm saying? Academic, 2009, right? Online, EDN, Oxford Academics. He gonna sit there and shake his head. You didn't study deep enough, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Crayon don't cover it, bruh. You know what I'm saying? These get some spray paint cans or something. Do some daggone, come on, B. You know what I mean? Reconstruction lost passages of tested hypothesis about Qumran corpus and Second Temple Jewish literature. For the broader significance of the Qumran finds how comparative traditions inform interpretation. See standard overviews of Qumran scholarship. Okay, so it affects the interpretation. Key Semitic syntax, parallelism. I already showed this. Consecutive narrative parataxis, construction change. Okay, verbless clauses, nominal sentences. Somebody said, "Oh, Zion's saying a whole bunch of no." That's Kruger Dunning-Kruger effect, bro. It's going over your head. All of this is extremely important to understanding. You know, saying that Greek don't mean that it's Greek. And when somebody retranslates it into a Semitic text from the syntax in which it was written, then we get a clearer understanding of who wrote it and the origin of it and what it means in context, especially when it's talking about anti-Greco-Roman language. Gallup flooding the record with numerous claims and sources, many peripheral and unsupported, to create an appearance of decisive case, appeal to irrelevant authority, evoking experts or texts that lack direct relevance to the specific questions to lend undeserved weight, right? Citation overload, sheer volume, source, volume of references used to imitate or intimidate or obscure rather than clarify. A contextonomy, quote snippets that when isolated misrepresent the original author's meaning. A red herring introducing. Let's watch out for these in any future debates, please, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Point it out, y'all. Red herring, introducing material that distracts from the central issue, bringing up some daggone little pictures of white Jesus and some abunas in the 20th century, when we're talking about over daggone 1900 years of history. We're talking about from the 1st century to the daggone 19th. You want to bring out some and then the pictures of the African, you know what I'm saying, the some of the Omatic tribes. This is what they were supposed to look like. How did objection speculation, bro? These people were in this epicenter of trade between the Middle East, Egypt, and Southern Arabia, Israel, all of that, all of those trade routes from the Red Sea to the Inset Road to the Nile Valley. These people had clothing. I don't know why. I got a freaking heart. These people had clothes. They had garbs and crowns and all kinds of. They had metallurgy and all of that stuff. Come on, B, don't do that. That's horrible. Non sequitur, a conclusion that does not logically follow from follow from the cited premise. What about ism? What about when Haile Selassie? Deflecting critique by pointing to unrelated faults elsewhere, right? So yeah, man, come on, y'all. Okay, I'm not even going to get into that. Yeah, I already went in on the Owaspy doctrine, how they actually have real freaking Greco-Roman thinking in their cosmology, right? Thrones, degrees, councils, imperial court, Byzantine, ceremonial, logo. Logos is the Moira personified. He want to talk about, logos came from the Greeks. Well, why is it in your book? You weren't going to tell him that, were you? You know what I'm saying? Bruh. Y'all know I'm silly. So I got to have some fun. You know what I'm saying? This is what it's all about. It's about the information. It's about the scholarship. It's about the sources. It's about being comprehensive and trying to synthesize the information. But also, you know what I'm saying, having a good time, because we black folk and we going to do that, right? So diopposite, this goes back into defining what is Hellenistic, right? Diopposite, Chalcedonian Greek Orthodox, Hellenistic dualism, diacetic, Gnostic, Hellenistic strand, Hellenistic spiritualism, Miaphysite, Oriental Orthodox, Egyptian, Judaic, and Egyptian unity traditions. They're different. St. Mark wasn't born, and if you want to say that he wasn't existent, it was the John of Mark. You know what I'm saying? You want to say that he was a legend. You know what I'm saying? Okay, but inside of legend, there is fact. You know what I'm saying? That can be historical fact that can be extracted. Inside of a story, even when somebody tries to lie, there's always a daggone, a thin line of truth in their line. You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you where they were at, you know what I'm saying, and who they were with, you know what I'm saying? But they won't tell you, you know what I'm saying, what time, so that they can say that they weren't, you know, saying build some form of. So that's what I'm saying. Be like let's be careful not to leave out the details if we're going to really do a thorough investigation of any topic that we are going to debate or going to present. Let's really get deep into it, right? So those cats, we brought up all of these names, knowing that you guys were going to hear Greek names, and knowing that when you hear Greek names, you're going to immediately presume that these are Greek people. No, Frumentius wasn't Greek, Dioscorus wasn't Greek, and Nazius was not Greek. These dudes were Egyptian, Syrian, Libyan, you know what I'm saying? They were black folk running around who just knew how to speak some Greek and still wrote in a Semitic syntax. Still wrote like they would be writing if they were writing in their native language. And this is how we know, right? So I showed that source, I think. The Ge'ez matters, right? So Ethiopic Ge'ez versions, and I showed how scholars demonstrate Semitic authorship. So this is just going to show that there was a church Prior to the Greco-Romans, here's many differences. You know what I'm saying? Scriptural canon is different. As language, the Jews as over the Greek is to deny Greek being in the liturgy. How do you say that somebody is Hellenized when they're not using the Greek? They're not using the Greek calendar. They're not using Greek imagery. They're not using Greek liturgical practices. They're not using Greek feast days and certain holy days. They're doing circumcision. They're doing all of these things that are more congruent with the original authentic antiquitous daggone apostolic teaching prior to Roman conversion 300 years later. It says that one church is still doing what the original dudes were doing. Not what the copycats were doing, not what the Vanilla Ices were doing, but what the Rakims were doing. Local customs, incorporation, communion bread, married priests, liturgical music, rock-hewn churches, Solomonic ties, Ethiopian, a synod structure, canon law sources, biblical texts, anaphoria, clerical attire. The attire is unique. He tried to say, look at these folks dressed like, oh man, and they weren't. Just because somebody has a robe, people wear robes. You know what I'm saying? In almost every religion. So if I went to the daggone, if they were, you know what I'm saying, wearing daggone a yellow and burgundy robe, then I would assume that they were Buddhist. It doesn't necessarily have to, they could be daggone freaking Hare Krishnas. Wait, two different ways of daggone dressing and stuff. And he's gonna sit there and appeal to your ignorance of the present time. He was showing present pictures and said that he was gonna focus on the 3rd and 6th century, and that was some three-card Monty. Frumentius connection, not introduction. Frumentius connection was not the introduction. Frumentius influence on Azana was how Ethiopia became a Christian state, the first Christian empire. Not that it was that he introduced Christianity to the whole entire country. These are people who were traveling back and forth on the Incense Road and the Nile Valley prior to Frumentius even getting there, right? He came on a ship with a bunch of Romans. Ethiopians destroyed the ship. Frumentius came over. He only saved the Syrians, slew all of the Romans. They slew all of the Romans. I'll say it again. The Ethiopians slew all of the Romans because the Romans thought that because they just took over the daggone took over Greece, that now all of the ports that Greece had some, you know what I'm saying, had some power in, that they could control that. So the Romans were coming over here. Ethiopians tore that thing down and saved only the Syrians because they had a relationship with Syrian people, right? Showed that before. I think I can get to that. Following the conversion of Azana declared Christianity the official state religion. Right, here's one of the sources here. It says, after gaining their freedom and the trust of the royal court, Frumentius became the tutor of the young. And here's a source. Philip's son, 12, Moreau. Hey, now that source just states that Frumentius got there. That doesn't make my argument. Right? It's just a source that gives information about Frumentius. A seminal achievement was converting Azana to the practice Judaism. Okay, great source, but it still does not prove my argument here, right? So Rufinus of Aquileia, 1997, King Azana replaced Frumentius, right? So here, kingdoms appear Armenia preceding the conversion of, following the conversion, Azana declared Christianity, establishing Aksum as one of the world's most first Christian kingdoms, a peer of Armenia, and preceding the conversion of the Roman Empire itself, preceding the conversion of the Roman Empire itself, meaning that Rome had not even, Roman Emperor Constantinus II later attempted to interfere, urging King Azana to replace Frumentius. Wait, the Roman dude, the Roman emperor attempted to interfere, listen to this, urging King Ezana to replace Frumentius with an Arian bishop, but Ezana firmly refused. Oh, wait. He talking about how they was throwing dudes off the daggone, off the bishop seat left and right in Alexandria, but when they tried to do it here, he got the hell to the no, nigga, get out of here. Powerful demonstration of Aksumite Empire's theological and political influence. So that source, Rufinus of Aquila, 1997, that source supports my argument. Okay, and that's how we know the difference. Debunking the misconception that Saint Frumentius introduced Christianity to Ethiopia is the title of the book, and it's written by I think it's an article, right? By Hale in 10 of November 2025. A recent source about exactly what this topic is about. Fallacious, facetious, and fictitious is to argue a whole bunch of sources that just, support certain things within the context of your argument, but not the argument itself. You wanted to ask about how, we don't see, here's the crazy thing. He says St. George was a Roman, and they venerate St. George in Ethiopia. Show us some Ethiopian, Roman Catholics or Roman Greco-Roman dudes, worshiping a black Jesus. Like, that was crazy. I think that came out of his mouth too fast before he thought about it, right? Because we see that, and basically, Ethiops means sunburned faces. So from the Greco-Roman perspective, whenever they worship the Black Madonna, which goes all the way back to the beginnings of even the Roman Catholic Church, they would have called her Ethiops, right? They would have regarded her as a sunburned Afro-Semitic. Okay, so this is why all of those antiquitous imageries that we see in medieval, Roman Catholic Church and stuff like that, even going back further, were all depicted as black. So, okay, boom, you slipped. But here's the next thing. We won't see no Ethiopian. The Ethiopian eunuch is a saint in the Roman Catholic Church too. So what? What does it have to do with the price of a can of beans in Bosra? Right? So, early Egyptian and Syrian Greeks often appear within Greek history. Early Egyptian and Syrian Christians often appear in history with Greek names because the Greco-Roman world used Greek as a dominant language of administration. The thing is asking, is Ethiopia Christianity a product of Roman influence? Product, not that does it have Roman influences? Is it a product of those influences? When we're seeing Egypt, Syrian, Jews, freaking daggone, Armenian, Nubia, Egypt. All right, said Egypt, right? Names because the Greco-Roman world used Greek as a dominant language of administration. Said this before. Scholarship and theology as Christianity spread in Alexandria, Antioch, and other centers. Antioch is Eurasia, right? And other centers, local leaders and saints were recorded in Greek. That means that the writers who recorded the history were writing in Greek and gave them Greek names. It doesn't mean that they were Greek people, or that they were even freaking daggone down with the Greek freaking daggone perspectives. Some of them were Pauline, some of them were not. And I think that Paul's doctrine wasn't what it became when Constantine and like the ecumenical councils and the councils of Nicene, they came to some things or whatever, some agreements, and even the Oriental churches and the Eastern Orthodox churches, they submitted to those things. Okay, we'll take that. But then when the freaking Council of Chalcedon came through, they were like, okay, yeah, we're going to Greco-Romanize this whole thing. And I was like, yo, hold on, P, what are you doing? You ain't even gonna do it? You ain't gonna do it? You do straight up Debo, bro. Throw the dude off. You know what I'm saying? Get him out of here. You know what I'm saying? Get him out of here. You know what I'm saying? Dude's on the run. You know what I'm saying? We see you. You know what I'm saying? It's on site. Where they gonna run to? Who you gonna run to? They went to Ethiopia. Why? Because they were safe. You know what I'm saying? They had to get off the block. The block was hot. Alexandria, Antioch, and other centers, local leaders and saints were recording in Greek. Even the native languages were Coptic or Syriac. This reflects both the cultural prestige of Greek and Byzantine imperial influence, which imposed Greek name conventions on non-Greek communities. Okay, so by even us saying, "Oh, this has to be Greek," we are acquiescing to Greek freaking to the Greek Imperium Romanum by giving them that power. Let's not give these folks too much power, man. I think sometimes we give them too much power, yo. So the evolution of the word "logo," he brought up logos. Logos, obviously, you know what I'm saying? He's saying he knows that it doesn't. That's why I'm like, yo, he's gonna sit here and try to pander to my, you know, people who don't particularly care for Christianity at all. He's gonna pander to y'all, you know what I'm saying? Because he knows that you're already gonna have your own biases toward Christianity, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? No problem with that. But let's, you know what I'm saying? But why be disingenuous? Why only give part of the story? He brings in the logos, but the whole discussion of the logos only came after people were trying to understand how the Greeks were going to perceive the Dabar and the Ruach HaKodesh from the Hebrew and the Memra in the Aramaic. Those things, those ideas, the functions of that spiritual, you know what I'm saying, theological idea or philosophical idea was pre-logos. This existed before the Greeks sat down and was like, okay, let's look at this, look at their religion here. How are we going to distinguish that? What are we going to call it? And that's how the pen was mightier than the sword. Remember that saying? And they knew that. They knew that. I think it was like Socrates or one of them that said that, right? But Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses cannot define how we be dropping things. Judaism, Dabar, meaning the Hebrew scripture Dabar refers to God's word. So we know that. So, and then you have the Hellenism logos, which came later as they were trying to, you know what I'm saying, identify how they were going to get categorized. Moving on. Let's get to some of this. I showed, here are the influences to say that I'm not saying that Ethiopian Christianity is totally unique to anybody without anyone else's influences. I'm saying Greco-Roman influence is minimal in comparison to Assyria, right? Saba, South Arabia, Yemen, right? With the Jews, you know what I'm saying? Assyria, you know what I'm saying? Nubia and Kush prior to and during the Christian era, the apostolic era before 300, right? And Egypt. All of these are trading centers. You cannot say that these folks who love texts, love to read other antiquitous works, the kings and the royalty and the elite class were going back and forth and trading and getting books and getting textiles and incense and myrrh and all of these things, right? And you're just trying to minimize it and smush it into a little tiny Greco-Roman capsule. Why? Why must you try to do that when you're forgetting all of this? Look at the timeline. 2000 to 5000 BC. Look at that. Look at this. This is the green dot up top. That's pre-freaking daggone Christian Auxum, right? So then we're going to turn around and say that this is a product. Absolutely absurd, bro. Right? Judaic influence, Judaism kings, like they say, so the whole Judaic influence and the anointed Mashiach, how they viewed Christ was very much more on a messianic, Semitic view, as opposed to how the Greco-Romans looked at it like the dude just floated down and turned into a baby and freaking that he's just God, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? And in human form, like some, you know, like a dualistic demigod in a sense, not half God, half man, but he would, you know, he's not a dude, which is absurd. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's continue up. Let me go a little bit further here. So over here, I had brought this syncretism and Christian tradition, another source that focuses on how the many mechanisms of transmission, of influence from different cultures, you know what I'm saying, affect race and revelation in the study of religious mixture, right? So the history of syncretism, use of indication, indicates wider interpretive problems in religious studies and theology. So this is not something that's simple, right? Ungrading race and revelation. I'm gonna about to close out a little bit. Importance of seeing tradition as adaptive and an amalgamating rather than static. So to say it is a product of Rome would be that it's some kind of static. And so why are all of these differences there from so far back and still exist today? And the church's division and their theology and their liturgy and their calendar and their all of that still predate and have shows other influences. To say that it's only solely a product of Roman influence is absolutely absurd, and no freaking scholar, no theological, philosophical, or, you know what I'm saying, or otherwise, scholar of antiquity, of anthropology would ever say that. None. Chapters 3, here's your sources, right? Chapter 3 of the Universal Polytheism and the Cases of the Jews, right? Discusses how Jewish monotheism was perceived within the Greco-Roman polytheistic environment. What am I talking about? How they just turned around and looked at it from their own personal perspective. Useful at showing that the Oriental Christianity, including Ethiopia, aligned with Jewish monotheism rather than Greco-Roman dualism. Chapter 4, the divine name of characteristics of divine identity, the Second Temple Judaism, early Christianity by Charles A. Xion. Explores how the use of the divine name Yahweh shaped early Christian identity, supports the argument of the Ethiopian Christianity retained Semitic Judaic categories rather than adapting or adopting Hellenized ones. Chapter 9, Between Jewish Monotheism. Source, Proto-Trinitarian relations, the making of and character of Johannine Christology. Oh, what is that? Examines Johannine theology as a bridge between Jewish monotheism and emerging Trinitarian thought. Wow. Demonstrates how Greco-Roman categories were beginning to infiltrate, but Oriental traditions resisted. Chapter 13 of how can all sources dealing with the resistance to Hellenization, with it not being a freaking product. All this is how you source, my brother, right? Here's another one, right? I like to take the clips so that you can see the page, right? So, you know what I'm saying? Anybody can just type down something and put a freaking daggone a source underneath it. And unless you're going to go to that source and read, you know what I'm saying? Then, you know, they can get away with that kind of robbery. Okay. Ethiopia and Christian ecumeny. Cultural transmission, translation, and reception. The late unique medieval Christians, Ethiopians, were into again a source about the topic. Characterize processes of cultural transmission and interactions. The most evident and widespread form, which is translations, attested starting to the most ancient Ethiopian manuscripts. Translations are therefore a substantial and constituent part of the medieval Ethiopian cultural production. At its own cultural production, and its same time a core element of its literary heritage. Acquisition through translation from Greek categorizes late antiquity. Acquisition, adaptations from revision of text, from Arabic, and later revision of the Bible on the Hebrew text, occasionally at times. Also from Latin, categorized centuries from the 12th to the latest, to the 16th and beyond. So we're seeing Latin, we're seeing Hebrew, we're seeing, you know what I'm saying, Arabic, right? And then, you know what I'm saying? So we're not seeing one cultural transmission from just Rome, right? Here's your Kushite peoples, your Kushite empires, and a map showing, you know what I'm saying, this is Sheba. This is literally like, I think something like 30, 35 or 36 kilometers or something from the Horn of Africa, from Upper Ethiopia. So when it talks about the story of the Queen of Sheba, whether you believe in the lore, the legend itself or not, what it does is talk about a very factual transmission of cultural, right? Cultural, shared culture, shared history, right? Because it's so close. It's right around the block. And this is what the Kushite people control. Sheba controlled this much area and territory right there. Ethiopia, Abyssinia right there, right? Aksum, right? Okay, Egypt, Israel's right over here, right? So we're talking about this. This is what shaped Ethiopian Christianity more so than the dudes up here. Like this is ridiculous, right? Elephantine, where we spoke about, I think the other night somebody had brought up Elephantine Island and about how the Jews, there was a whole entire settlement of Jews there after the destruction of the second temple that actually formed their own temple. And this is a large portion of history that goes on with the king of the king of Ethiopia, Queen of Sheba, King David's story. Elephantine Island has a lot to do with the history of the Ark of Covenant tradition, right? And so while you might not believe in the Ark of Covenant or might not believe that the Ethiopians have the Ark of Covenant, the very interesting thing that you can extract from that information is that there is, in fact, a transmission of culture, a shared cultural history between Elephantine Jews and Ethiopian peoples. And we know that it's a fact because there are Ethiopian Coptic monks that still live on Elephantine Island today. Have been there for thousands of years, right? So again, Midian, we see Midian in the Old Testament. Midian is where, you know what I'm saying, and this is right here in the crease, you know what I'm saying, between the Sinai Peninsula that talks about Ethiopia. So we know that there's a long history of the term Ethiopia and Kush and these Cushitic peoples, you know what I'm saying, from this Nile Valley area, you know what I mean, Nubia, southern south of Egypt, you know what I'm saying, going all the way down to the Horn of Africa, that these people had a long history with the Hebrews, with the Syrians, with the Egyptians, with the Nubian. That is not rocket surgery. I don't have to tell you this. But so now we're going to sit here and act like all of that and have no effect, right, on this. The absurdity, man, the oversimplification. We see genetic transmission, the J1 haplo, right? Origin in the early spread, right? I'm about to close out. If anybody wants to, you know what I'm saying, have a conversation, you know what I'm saying, J1 haplo in Israel. And we're seeing that there's the genetic transmissions of then that means that there's culture, shared culture, that people are moving back and forth. And actually the migrations of this pattern actually even predates Christianity, if not, you know what I'm saying, our earliest freaking daggone scripts of any form of Judaic history, right? These transmissions have been going on for thousands and thousands of years, councils of thousands of years. So again, the genetic transmission only to support. It is not that's not direct evidence, it's circumstantial, right? So the difference between circumstantial and direct evidence, sometimes when you have enough circumstantial evidence, you can come to a, you know what I'm saying, a burden, you know what I'm saying, of proof. But again, you know what I'm saying, it's the difference between Wu-Tang and PM Dawn, bro. You know what I'm saying, how you argue, you know what I'm saying, if it's oversimplified and people just latch on to you're making it simple, but that, you know, and citing a whole bunch of sources that really don't have the tact, or the focus is not specifically on the title. These are just citations that support bits and pieces that you're putting together, but it's not sources that are literally focused on the subject matter. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what the poll says. Ethiopian Orthodoxy, Hellenized churches on images. The images, you will not see statues in there. You will not see any of that in there. Okay? In Ethiopian Orthodox churches, reject that. Hellenized churches, Greek, Eastern Orthodox, right? All of the churches that were products of Greco-Roman Byzantine Christianity do that. All the Eastern churches, the Greek Orthodox churches, they do that, and they have their calendar, and they use Greek and Latin. They use everything that says that they're Hellenized, that they are a product of the Roman Byzantine church, none of which you will see in Ethiopian, practices. So with that said, let me see here if there's anything else. I had some other, let me read this one source here, and I'll show you some of the images. Kaplan Stephen, Ethiopia Orthodox Church, A History, Rutledge, 2007, right? Source, right? Chapter 2, page 45 to 46. So y'all can go and find a page. I'm not just citing a source and a date. Kaplan discusses Ethiopia's retention of Judaic practices, such as a Sabbath observance, circumcision, dietary rule, noting that these distinguish Ethiopian Christianity from Greco-Roman traditions. He emphasizes that these practices are not later borrowings, but continuities from Ethiopia's pre-Christian Semitic heritage. The Hebrew Semitic influences that predate Christianity in itself, even though that the Christianity that they got was not Roman, right? It's more closely related to James, and the brothers have brought that out. James and Peter and Matthew. They were teaching the Eastern Orthodox, the Egyptians, the Nubians, and Ethiopians, right? Something different, slightly different than what Paul was teaching and how Paul was teaching the Greco-Romans. And then when the Greco-Romans got their hands on it, they flipped it around and did what they wanted to do with it. And it became something else. But the continuities from Ethiopians pre-Christian Semitic, reinforcing the argument that Ethiopia resisted Hellenization, right? For a whole daggone 15,000 years, bro. 1,500 years. 1,500, right? Yeah. Come on, B. Greek language from Roman imperial politics shaped how Christianity was expressed in Europe. But the core concepts, divine kingship, anointing, resurrection, were already alive in Judaic Nile Valley traditions. Ethiopia's Christianity shows this continuity, rejecting Hellenization and preserving Semitic and Afro-Semitic roots. Nile Valley, Egyptian cooked. Here's key sources. Here's some more sources. Rune, settle back ancient Egyptian religion and how it influenced Christianity on the topic. Here's Christianity, how Christianity came to Africa, foundation of Nile Valley, source on the topic. Robert N. Bound, Egypt and the Nile Valley before Roman occupation, right? Right. Oxford Academic to 2024. Gerald Massey, The Natural Genesis, 1883, connects the Egyptian term crest, anointed mummified one, with Osiris and the concept of rebirth. Dr. Jermaine Thomas Crest, right? That's why Ethiopia. One of the reasons I had used that as a source, because as a subtext, the term is not Christian in how they use the term in the Ethiopian and the Amharic is krestena, and it's more closely related to the Egyptian and Kemetic and okay, so that's showing that transmission was more Egyptian. Okay, so regardless, these brothers don't look, this is medieval, 18th century, right? 18th century, Ethiopian lords, of the Solomonid house of Solomon. These are, powerful men of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Nothing about them is shaped like Romans because they have clothes and shoes on. Come on, B. Epicenter of trade. They're going to have clothing. They're going to have all kinds of things. And they have their own artifacts. They have their own gold. They have their own daggone natural resources that other people wanted. That's why Rome had to go out and try to control other territories, because they wanted natural resources that they didn't have. Not folks in the Nile Valley. And you freaking daggone, you see gold freaking daggone floating, streaming down the freaking daggone. You know what I'm saying? Just randomly, you know what I mean? Stop it, bro. You know what I mean? So, so we see, Nubians and stuff. They were depicted in early, Kemetic. So that again showing the relationship of the Nubians and the Egyptians. You know what I mean? That's relevant to the influence, Egyptian influence on Kush, right? Key ancient religions in Kush, right? Overview of the ram in Israelite religion. Why these things converse? Why am I comparing things in the study? Indigenous Nubian beliefs, pre-Egyptian influences, right? Because I'm showing that these things were what were more so transmitted into how Izana, who was not forced into, you know what I'm saying, Christianity, he decided, you know what I'm saying, from his, you know, at that time, his servant, Frumentius, the Syrian, with a Greek name, you know what I'm saying, he decided to make it a state religion. And he obviously would have had knowledge of these of the Judaic history and such even back then. Herodotus in the 5th century describes, you know what I'm saying, primary source, describes Egyptians as having black skin, woolly hair, likening them to Ethiopians. So we already know that. Anthropology, archaeological genetic studies confirms that ancient Egyptians were part of the Nile Valley continuum with strong ties to Nubia and Kush. Yo, come on, B. You know what I'm saying? Oh, he's stealing from the white guy who stole, the black guy stealing from the white guy who stole from the black guy argument. It's circular and it's ridiculous, right? Kerma culture, Kerma civilizations, evidence of Kushite primacy or co-development, flow people of ideas northward, Egyptian dependence. I'm just flying through now because, you know what I'm saying, here. Key deities, shared deities, Amun, Isis, Osiris, Hathor, worshipped at both Egypt and Nubia. Distinct Nubian deities, Apetamak, lion, god of war, Mesemi, goddess of protection. We all had some, you know, a male and female, you know what I'm saying, dichotomies, not necessarily dichotomies, but unities in spiritualism of Afro-Semitic cultures. Religious centers, Napata, Meroe became major cult centers, rivaling Egyptian thieves, dynastic influences, Nubian 25th dynasties reinforces Egyptian religion, but infused it with Nubian elements, showing religious reciprocity rather than one-way influence. All right. So flying through, I said that, right? Okay, let me go back here. So I like to, you know what I'm saying, be a little silly and stuff, but I give images and stuff too. But I gotta get, sometimes you gotta get past it. Even quotations from the Jesus Wars, right? Christ's nature. What was the wars about? It was the war about whose Jesus virgin was going to stick and was going to be enforced on everyone else. And that was primarily the Romans' opposite doctrine that started the Jesus Wars. It says here, he said in one of those discussions that the Ethiopians were engaged in bloodshed and stuff during it. No, they weren't. They were resisting by not accepting the daggone Romans' theology, but they weren't in nowhere in part of any of those massacres, right? The popularity of monophysite label also owes something to the rhetorical practice, as each side framed the debate in a way that made its enemies look as bizarre and outrageous as possible. Jenkins points out that calling monophysites was polemical, right? The polemics, Ethiopia was often mislabeled, but in reality held of monophysitism to a hedo non-monophysitism. And any theological struggle, the first 1,000 years are always the bitterest. That reflects the ferocity of early church conflicts, including the Chalcedonian Romans, right, split that permanently separated Ethiopia from Greco-Roman. Permanently. This is a quotation from the book called The Jesus Wars that he brought up and didn't read this part to you. Philip Jenkins. I ain't one to gossip, so you ain't heard it from me. This reflects the ferocity. Separated Ethiopia from Roman Christianity in the first 1,000 years, bro. This is Ethiopian Christianity, bro. You won't find none of this in no daggone Sanctus. Oh, yeah, bro. Nigga, please. We see the Ark tradition in Egypt first. You know what I'm talking about? The Hebrew Ark. You know what I'm saying? How similar is that to how the Kemetic people had their Ark traditions, right? Ethiopian art, you won't see no daggone sculptures and stuff on their replicas that they have in every single church. That is not done in the Greco-Roman church or the Greek Orthodox church or in the Egyptian Oriental Orthodox churches or in the, come on, bruh. You'll see this in the Roman Catholic Church, you know what I'm saying, trying to replicate what the black folks did. Put a whole white woman on top of it, excuse my language. And if you look at the shape of the wings, that is in the shape of the Vesica Pisces, which is the shape of a vagina. Excuse my language. Trying to mimic the originator. Come on, B. Stop doing that. Stop giving them people more power than they deserve to have, B. Jesus is proclaimed Messiah anointed. I think I'm about done here. Yeah, hold on. Let me see. Early Christianity, Ethiopia. Man, I got sources that deal with the topic, not just sources, citations of about, oh yeah, this one, Clement was in this era, blah, 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 this time and another, right? Okay. And the source that establishes that is this. Okay, what is that establishes the dude. But what does it have to do with the price of a can of beans? Right? The garb. This is early Nubian garb, pre-Christian. He talking about these folks supposed to be butt naked with bones in their nose. They actually did a replica of what their clothing looked like in the images and how they garbed themselves prior to pre-colonial Nubia. I'm gonna sit here and act like they were supposed to be butt naked until the Greeks, and that's why they have clothes on, so they must be Greek. Man. Manufactured Negroes, in the words of the honorable oh man, manufactured papal headgear, the camelicum. I went through the papal head, showing he wanted the medieval tiara evolved from early Eastern court headgear. It's different than the Coptic liturgical vestments, visual continuity, Coptic vestments and liturgical dress, stoles, tunics, headgear, embroidered panel. He tried to make it seem like because these folks were wearing clothing and crowns on their heads. And one dude had a little freaking daggone image, and that was all the way in the 20th century, that somehow that constitutes being a product of Rome. Nubian royal clerical crowns, wall paintings, cathedral, Nubian crowns and episcopal regalia was different than the Byzantine, right? It has parallels, but the pharaonic forms, right? The reconstruction of Nubian royal dress, Pallium, Orpheon lineage, right? Bishops on the bishop's shoulders bands, Western Pallium. That's different. They don't do that. We do not do that here. We do not do that here. We will not have it. Look at this egghead. You show me that in Ethiopia. Bro, you know, it looked like a boob. Bro, come on, with the fish head, the dog, ain't none of that. You're going to see in Ethiopia. We're going to see this in Ethiopia, bro. Come on, B. Visual and symbolic parallels, tall vertical silhouette from the atef, the crown, the episcopal headgear, uses height to signal authority, sacred status, and visual language of rulership that occurs across cultures, Egyptian divine kingship, and medieval ecclesiastical sovereignty. Ornament, iconography, feathers, urae, jewels, crosses, function as identity markers. In Egypt, they encode ma'at, truth, justice, and kingship. In Christianity context, jewels, crosses, and diadems encode spiritual and temporal jurisdiction. Public ritual. Come on, B. This stuff did not all, it ain't all fucking, excuse my language, it ain't no product, bro. You know what I'm saying? To this, B. You know what I'm saying? Which came first, the chicken or the egg, my dude? And that's where I'm going to end right there. I think I did my thing. Where you at? You at a side.
All right, family, y'all already got it. Xion, he laid it down. He showed the information. And now it's up to you. If y'all want to question him, the link is in the chat. I'm only going to be here for like 3 minutes if y'all want to do it. If not, I'm out.
Come on.
All right, man.
Nobody? All right. Nobody.
Yeah, they be scared of this information. Message to all moderators. I don't know why I got to keep saying this, but I'm going to say it again. Nobody should not be blocking anybody. Nobody. I'm the only one that block you. But if you see a comment that say something very nasty or disrespectful, you got the green light to do that. I'm saying, but the comment got to be like real disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? Real disrespectful. Like cursing out somebody's family member or saying something to somebody's dead parents. That's the green light right there. Nobody blocks nobody. And when you get timed out, nobody untimed them. They got timed out for a reason. Why would you come behind the person and then untime them? You don't do that, man. Y'all don't do stuff like that. Let they butt be timed out. You know? Let them be timed out so they can think about what they did. I'm going to call you right back, all right? I'll call you right back. Yeah. So that's what it is, man. Anybody want to come in? Anybody got any questions? Anybody want to come in? Anybody got any questions? Going once?
Get the picture.
Going once?
Somebody.
All right. What's happening, Patterson?
Hey, what's going on, man?
All right. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Xion War trial, right?
Right.
Has he been to like a Coptic church Bible study meeting?
I have a couple of I'm connected through the Ethiopian World Federation to quite a few. And I've been to a Coptic church before. Not necessarily. Well, yeah, I've been around to Ahito brothers and stuff, just to, but not to an actual meeting. You know what I'm saying? I have on my WhatsApp quite a few different organizations, and they have discussions and stuff in there. But I've never been to like a Bible study meeting from the Coptic or Ethiopian Coptic to Ahito. I haven't.
Yeah, I've been for 13 years now. And they got a lot of rich history, man. They got, they could tell you when St. Mark went to go evangelize to them.
Right.
They got the bones of Mark. And for your Kemetic people, y'all need to go there since y'all think, the bones didn't exist. You know what I'm saying? See, I got the Coptic crosses right here.
So you saying they got the bones of St. Mark, brother?
Yeah, the other brother said that St. Mark didn't exist. I don't, I can't
Bible you talking about? The Mark of the Bible?
Yup.
They got
the bones. In Egypt, they got the footprints of Christ in Egypt. Look it up. No, I'm serious. Look it up.
If they you don't think the museum would have had it by now?
Nah, they got it. They got it in the museum in Egypt, man.
Oh man, okay.
Google. When you get a chance, because I forgot the name, just Google the footprints of Christ, Orthodox Coptic Church, and they'll give you the name, and you can see like the Google pictures. They show you the footprints and everything, man. But they got a lot of rich history, man. A lot of rich history.
All right. Hey, hold up, Rakufu.
I got a good question for
you. Hold up, Rakufu.
Oh, okay.
Rakufu, I got I've been up here for about going on 2 hours.
Okay.
I got 151 people in the chat. See what I mean when I said you hurt the channel? See what I'm talking about? They don't care about apologies, bro. They don't care about you saying I'm sorry or none of that to me. I apologize. They don't care. Look at the views. They didn't send out a lot of my links because of that, man. That's what I'm trying to show you. It hurts my channel when you do that. When you wild out and you go crazy on Unc and you curse him out and he cursing back, it just, they like, oh, push that button. Don't let these notifications get out. That's what they do.
Okay.
And so now I might be waiting for another 4 or 5 months before they lift the ban again.
You ain't got to worry about me doing it, no. I know.
Yeah, okay, I hope not, brother. But go ahead, you can speak. What you got, man?
So I just was going to say, they also claimed in Ethiopia they had the Ark of the Covenant, but when that came to be a fluke, because when they went into the thing in the war, nothing was there. So, I mean, they claim a lot of stuff, just like they claimed in Israel they had certain books, and when they found out they was plankton they put in the little rocks to make it seem authentic, they found out it was a fraud. They bought it for like millions of dollars too. So
yeah, I believe it ain't real. That's what I'm trying to tell you, brother. Ain't no fake mark balls over there, brother.
That was they made a lot of and any religious culture does that though. You know, every religious culture has their relics and their, you know what I'm saying, their holy items and stuff like that. But this is the thing is that, you know, I'm not here to legitimize, you know what I'm saying, anything. I'm not legitimizing anything. What I'm showing is that there is more layers than saying that Ethiopian Christianity is a product of Greco-Romanized Byzantine Christianity. It's very layered. It goes into Egyptian influences, Assyrian influences, Nubian influences, Judaic influences that were because of that trade epicenter. You know what I'm saying? The Red Sea, the Nile Valley, the Incense Road from Southern Arabia going up into, you know what I'm saying? Because of that trade area. I mean, it was an influx and a sharing of transmitted culture between all of these cultures. So when the Romans and stuff came in with their stuff, we clearly see that there was a resistance by the people of these areas who were the originators of these ideas and these theologies, right? And so that resistance remained in Ethiopia, and Ethiopian Christianity, you know what I'm saying, rejected the Hellenization. That's all. I'm not here to I'm not here to legitimize the ark, or, you know what I'm saying, or legitimize this or legitimize these claims.
Let me ask you though, with that being said, you know how Ethiopia at one time was, before Ethiopia was Aksum, Abyssinia, before them names, you had DMT, like Ma'at or okay, before the Demotic, so they had the biggest, I think it was Abyssinian society, the biggest Tekhen, or what we call Obelisk on Earth. So it was a deep connection with Nubia, Kush, Kemet, and that was a part of Kush. And so I just wanted to ask you and King J, is there any significance in that? Because I know King J studies ancient Kemet too. Any significance in that Tekhen or that obelisk and ancient Kemet? Any connection there, King J?
I'll say this: if you look at it, it's actually the way the top is shaped. It's circumcised. Yeah, it shows circumcision being practiced prior to. It is a circumcised tech. So that shows the Semitic practices and traditions going back that far, even pre-Christianity. That's the one thing I can extract from that.
When we say Semitic, Semitic, let's be careful, because the Kemetic came before the Semitic. We were doing so when we do with the Kemetic thing, I've also studied that. Just like we say African American, they say Afro-Asiatic, and it means exactly the same. The base is Africa. Everything outside that was landed in America or landed in Asia, thus African, Asiatic, African American.
Right. Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. Exactly. So you get it. You get what I'm saying. How sometimes certain things can be oversimplified. Now, even with the term African American, let's look at it from a modern perspective now with the FBA and the situation. You can't put everybody under one umbrella, you know what I'm saying, because, you know, we were labeled something from this one time period, you know what I'm saying, and now people are saying, well, I have, native indigenous, genetics, and I'm not affected by African culture. I'm American. My identity is different, right? Even how, like, for instance, people in Louisiana have a lot of French, right? Cultural influences on them, and that we don't have in New York, right? In New York, we have a lot of influences from Jewish, Italian, Latin American, because of the influx of certain immigration that came. So to say that we are a product of any one thing is so oversimplified.
But Warlord, we've been on that page. Everybody been on that since roots. We know we got light-skinned octoroons and mulattoes, but they chose to be a part of this African thing. If they choose right now to not be a part, then make your own little subset. You just break it up. You're already African, Bob, and even those people you go into, they gonna go trace their right around back to Africa too.
Right.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, go ahead, yo. I think King Jay wanted to answer the question too.
I did have a question to the brother, piece of the panel. Did you say that the transmission of Christianity into Ethiopia came through Philip?
No. Well, okay. So when I deal with that, with the eunuch legend, I don't think that it has to necessarily be a literal story, right? But what it does is transmit that there was a historical transmission of culture and text between Ethiopians and Jews of that early first century. I can definitely say that is true. While that story may have symbolic meaning behind it, more so than historical fact. You know what I'm saying? So, for instance, the whole Queen of Sheba, Solomon story, you know what I'm saying? Whether these people or characters were real or not does not take away from the fact that Yemen, Sheba, and Ethiopia had that connection with Israel through, and there's historic proof that there were Ethiopian and trade routes between Israel and, during those early times. So we got to extract what is true, what is actual historic facts or has historic relevance from whether we're going to give a veracity to the actual literal text. Do you feel what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
So when Menelik tries to draw a direct lineage through the keeping the gas of Selassie, that's false. You would say that he
I wouldn't say that it's false. I wouldn't say it's false. I don't think that the literal story, how they write it in their lore, is 100. Lore is always going to embellish.
But can you
watch this, in Kung Fu movies, they talk about actual historic characters, right? In the Kung Fu movies, but these dudes could fly on rooftops and daggone. So they always embellish their historic characters and figures that make them greater than life. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't draw DNA from men.
Yes, and I showed that. I showed the J1, that the J1 haplo actually is in transmission in Ethiopia. I had the slide. I don't know if you saw the slides where I showed Ethiopia's J1 transmission and Israel's, right? So we do have the transmission of some genealogical history along with the E1B1A, E1B1B. I didn't really get that deep into the DNA, you know what I'm saying? Because all I wanted to do basically there was show that there were genetic transmissions to prove that there is transmissions of genetics and culture, right?
A Semitic element. So are you referring to like the Elephantine Jews?
Mm-hmm.
That's the reference.
Well, I would say that the Elephantine Jews are also a subtext to that story as well. I'm talking more or less the Yemeni, right? Yemeni people of Sheba, there was Jews there for all the way from the first century, if not further back into the BCs, right? You know what I'm saying? Earlier BC times, right? So we see that they were there. And then you also have these people who have shared genetics and have a claim, also have very similar features, right? Like if you look at Sudanese people, Somalian people, they can tell. It's like Chinese people, Asian people can tell the difference between a Korean, a Japanese person, and you know what I'm saying, a Taiwanese person. They can tell the difference, right? We can't necessarily. So when I see a Sudanese person, I might think he's Ethiopian, or a Somali person, I think he's, or a Eritrean person, or you know what I'm saying, or a Yemeni. You look at the Yemeni Jews, they often share the same, and the DNA is there. The DNA is shared. They shows a migration, a flux of that gene pool going down through that Insant road into Southern Arabia and into the Horn of Africa.
But can you be a little bit clear with your point? Because the Yemen, so those would be a Cushitic element, not a Semitic element.
No. It's Semitic. It's Semitic. The J1, it's Cushitic. You would say, you know, I would say it would be the Omotics. And so I'm saying that there is a mixture. It's not like this J1 came down and just remained, you know what I'm saying, totally clean of any other, you know what I'm saying, Hamitic or Cushitic. They mixed in. But you'll see like the paternal lines and the maternal lines, you'll see the Omotic. You'll see those in the E1B1A and the E1B1B. You'll see that in the genealogies mixed in with the J1 and the J2s. You know what I'm saying? So these people came in and integrated, you know what I'm saying, with the people. It's not just...
But at that point, first century, there's no Christianity at that point. So are you...
First century, there was Christianity. It was just wasn't called Christianity until like the second century when you're talking about like...
Third century.
What is it? Antioch.
330 AD.
No. 313 AD is when the Roman Catholics started becoming Christians.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about, I had the dates. It was, I think one of them was like 37 to 35, I think was Mark. And then it went to 90 something, 8. So we're talking transmissions of Christianity. It might not have been called Christianity back then like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it was still a Judaic and an early faith. However, it was still being propagated prior to the third century, yo. You know what I'm saying? The third century is when the Greeks then start to make it legal, right? At that time, in the first and second century, the Greco-Romans were persecuting these people in all of the lands. There was huge massacres and slaughters going on from the first century all the way up to the third century. And then we have Constantine and Constantinople, you know what I'm saying, ecumenical councils and all of that stuff starts happening all the way into the 4th century. Then we get the Chalcedon. Chalcedon is when Romans decide this is how Christianity should be worshipped. Right?
You know what you're describing to me though? You sound like, you know how the Muslims, you know, talk about Muhammad and Mohammedanism is not, you know, the pure religion, you know, preaching of, you know, Islam. That's what you're sounding like to me. It's sounding like you're giving me Paulism, right? You're giving me Paulism in Ethiopia.
No, at all. I'm saying it's not Pauline. All throughout my entire thing, I'm saying that the Pauline doctrine did not enter into Ethiopia. Pauline doctrine did not enter into Ethiopia or the Oriental Church. That was Matthew and Mark. That was there, and I showed that there was factionalism amongst the actual apostles. That's what started some of the apostolic wars. You had you had factions and fractions between the leaders, Apollos, Chloe, the Church of Matthew and James and Peter. All of them had their different leaders, and they were fractured. And this is why Paul addresses it, that we're supposed to be one body. One can come from this one, and one can come from Paul, and one can come from Chloe, and one from the Church of Apollos. You know what I'm saying? All of these people went to different areas and were preaching the gospel. And when those gospels got to those areas, the people of those areas interpreted their Christianity according to their cultural identity. That is just simple. I mean, you're just going to look at it, and you're going to look at it, and you're going to say, okay, that kind of aligns with how I think about this or how we think about that.
All right. Let's get Suntan. Suntan, what's up, brother?
What's up? Peace. Brother Warchild, peace to the panel.
Peace, Elder.
We got knocked down, baby.
Yeah, they got y'all got y'all butt kicked. I see that.
Not the Pistons.
No, I ain't say the Pistons.
The Lions, man.
We still on top.
It don't matter if you're on top. It don't matter if you're on top. Guess what, Rakufu?
Said not the Pistons.
Hold on. Guess what, Rakufu? Wasn't Cleveland Cavaliers? Didn't they have the best top record?
Right.
And they butts got knocked out in the first round. What are you talking about? It don't matter.
I get it.
Yeah, you better get it. You better get it.
Hey, my whole thing is if the Lions can make it to the play, they didn't make it.
They ain't gonna go nowhere.
But we went in the baseball. We went to the playoffs, and we going in either to the championship or definitely the playoffs again in the Pistons. So Detroit is rather. Remember, Detroit historically, we talking history, is the blackest major city in America.
Yeah, we good, but Sidon got the big head over there since New York. They kind of did their thing. You guys got.
Now we getting ready to get Giannis.
You think?
Yeah. Yeah, we getting ready to get Giannis.
Y'all will get a championship.
That's gonna take us over the top right there.
You get a championship, y'all get him.
Yeah, we getting ready to get him. He already requested that he want to go to New York.
Did he?
Yeah, where you been at, man?
No, I ain't heard nothing like that, man. I heard he was
He faking like he hurt because he don't want to play for Milwaukee no more.
Yeah, I heard he wanted to come to the Pistons.
Nah, he don't want to go to the Pistons.
That's what I heard.
You heard wrong, brother.
You
want to go to a bigger market where he can be able to make a lot of money.
He can make it in Detroit.
No, you can't.
Boy, you know who owned the Pistons, billionaire.
Yeah, but it's different.
Tom Gore millionaire.
Hey, no, don't worry about it, Suntan. He don't want to say it. He don't want to say it. It's black.
All of the owners of the NBA are millionaires. What are you talking about? All
billionaires. Of them. Not million, billionaires.
Yeah, billionaires too.
Right. Our guy, Tom Gore's a billionaire.
Michael Jordan is a billionaire.
Yeah. So we ain't worried about it. I just see
the Charlotte Hornets.
I got that little smirk over there because they got that little championship.
Nah, that's not a little championship, brother. Y'all keep minimizing that. Every team in the NBA tried to make it that far. The Pistons got knocked out. Yeah. They couldn't make it.
We didn't make it.
So
Los Angeles Lakers got knocked out by San Antonio.
Well, what you gonna say when we come and kick y'all butts?
And then what's the other team? They got knocked out with Shea.
Yeah, that's facts, but that's okay.
Come on, man. The Knicks walked all the way through. They was knocking people out.
Hold up. I want to ask you this, Suntan. So I don't want to get on who can put them things up the best. We got the greatest of all time, Joe Louis from what's his name? The best boxer. No, I'm talking about better than all of them. Sugar Ray Robinson.
Right.
Mic drop. Pick that
all
up.
Right, look here. Well, we gonna wipe that smoke off your face, Si. So just you can smile right now, but we coming. You know. Yeah. So
no, Jordan never bought it, but he's partners with somebody else.
Right.
In the Charlotte Hornets. He's part owner.
Yeah. Right.
Why do you think you see him down there sometime getting at the players? Getting at them.
I mean, he be schooling them, that's all.
And he from Brooklyn.
Hey, watch out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One thing I would have liked one thing I liked at the presentation, but I would like to see more dates. That can give me a better way to
okay.
I could
right. Jordan told his state. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Definitely. I'll do better with that.
Because it was good information. Like I said, I just wanted to see some more dates. Because I understand that when that printing press was made, I looked that up. That was in 14. Hold on, when that printing press was made. And, a lot of information, man, that's been put out by Europeans.
Right.
1450. That's, so we got to be careful with the information, man.
Right. Like, for instance, he had the brother, Selah Shalom, you know what I'm saying? strategically through the picture, the image of Mark, right? He said he's a Libyan. That picture is from the 14th century. And it was painted by a like some Italian painter, right? So when these Italian dudes were painting the saints in Europe, we know that they didn't paint them especially during that time. That's like medieval Europe, you know what I'm saying? White was everything, everything was pasty, a little extra daggone,
Hey yo, hold up. Jordan sold his share for $3 billion.
He had the NASCAR, man.
$3 billion? What you doing with all that money, Jordan?
He going to NASCAR. He got that money in
that. Yeah, he in NASCAR.
And guess what? He still got shares in the Charlotte Hornets. Okay. Still got shares there.
Man,
Hey, Ward Child.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
My question to you would be, do you think that from the Catholic Church to the Ethiopian church, that it played out and it came out all the way to the urban streets of the thug life of the mafia being up under Italy and the Rastafari being up under the Rasta man that's on the block?
Okay, so I would say that there's a lot of, there's a lot of influences that came, like even with like the mafia and stuff like that. They're very connected to the Roman Catholic Church.
And Africa, on the other hand, the Rasta is connected to the
Ethiopian. Yeah, we're connected to the Ethiopian Resistance, Ethiopian World Federation. So, you know what I'm saying? And then when the whole situation with Mussolini, you got to remember back in 1930s, right? This is right after, you know what I'm saying, the New Negro era, that whole time period, Harlem Renaissance, you know what I'm saying? You had Marcus Garvey, you had all of the Ethiopianism was huge, right? And so, but you also had Italians in New York who was supporting, you know what I'm saying, Mussolini's and the Roman Catholics trying to conquest and take over Ethiopia. So I would say that there probably is a lot of history of how that affected the Black and Italian communities in the Americas, because most folks don't know how important the Ethiopia's success in that was to the global identity of Black folks at that time. You know what I'm saying? It was so important. Black folks in America were ready to daggone go over there.
And it goes before that.
Yeah.
It goes back to was it Menelik? What king was it?
It was Menelik II, right? Were you going back to Menelik II fought the first war with the Ottawa, right? You know what I'm saying? And won against them. And this is why, right? This is one of the reasons. So once Italy and the Roman Empire, right? Italy got weapons, that airplanes and tanks and helicopters. Now they felt that they were able to go into the Ethiopian Platonic plain because they felt that they could actually control some of that the terrain was so terrible in Ethiopia. You was getting your butt kicked, right?
And to revenge the beatdown.
Yes. So they came back to try to revenge that beatdown the second time, got whooped again. And, it took a little, they got some, they got some hits, you know what I mean? But they ended up getting pushed out again. They couldn't sustain it. So, but that's why it took so long for the Italians to this beef, this old 1st to 2nd century beef going into the 4th century beef, you know what I'm saying, between these two
and warlords,
sets.
Okay. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's
ahead, yeah.
When you look
we got planes now, we gonna go over there.
When you look at them Italians, they rock like they do all their little the Catholic thing. They do their little coronations and all that.
Right.
The mafia, and then so did the Rastafari. He do his Ethiopian thing, but he on the block with the sack. You know what I'm saying? Right. In there like
yeah. And the crazy thing, brother had said real quick. I'll get you, King J. But I just wanted to point this out, that the brother said that he said something about what was it? Ethiopians with the Italians, right? Oh man, I just lost it. Go ahead, King J. I'll think about it.
Two things real quick. Sai, you said you got this set up on portrait and landscape? or this just landscape on the StreamYard?
We mean portrait. I think it's landscape, right?
This landscape. It got the blue, like the cell phone on the side, and then it got the landscape on the. I just noticed
The
it.
other side, I think somebody else is streaming. He's streaming onto another platform.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm thinking, right, War Child Zion. So I had a conversation with a Gnostic earlier, right, and he hit me privy to some books that are not in the Bible, right? The Apocrypha of John, the Book of Enoch, Mary, right? The Gospel of Judas. These canons that were left out of the Christian Bible, right, on purpose, right?
Right.
So are these canons in the Ethiopian canon or no?
Okay, so some of the apocryphal texts that we see later on come later, and some of them are the writers are questionable whether they're of Europeans. Like I said with the syntax, seeing the Semitic syntax in a text. Now, when we see like Enoch 1 and Enoch 2, we see that syntax there, and we also know that it was originated in the early Levant and Aramaic sources, because we see it in the scrolls of Qumran. Now, other texts like Jubilees, Jasher, that's in there. That's in the Ethiopian. They preserved a lot of the old texts. You know what? What I like about it is a lot of these texts are not congruent, right? And Ethiopia decided to maintain the integrity of those texts, not so that they could try to formulate which books they were going to make the central focus of their doctrine. They kept them intact, even though there's some contradictory stuff in there. Like, yo, we just going to preserve this stuff, right? And meanwhile, the Romans, they took out stuff and only kept the canon that supported their doctrine. The Ethiopians don't care if it supports us. We're going to preserve it.
So I agree. I would agree with you in saying that Ethiopian has the purest form, has all the books. But so that would make so I'm glad you said Ethiopian Christianity, that distinguish between, you know, what you just said, Christianity, because Christianity does not have those books. So I agree in everything what you just said. It sounds kind of like a Gnostic viewpoint. Would you agree that Ethiopian Christianity and Gnosticism are the same? Because they draw from the same source.
I wouldn't know if agnostic and agnosticism. You mean agnostic?
Gnosticism.
Oh, Gnosticism. Yeah, Gnosticism. I would say Gnosticism. Actually, I had one of the charts that I had Gnosticism under Hellenized. So Gnosticism does pull from the diaphysite form of thinking of Christ. And it really seems like it's so tedious, you know what I'm saying, whether Christ is divine and human, or divine and human, or divine yet human, right? Like all the way they look at it is really interesting.
Before you go, let me just put it.
Hold on, real quick before you go, because Zion, some of those books that you said are in the Ethiopian canon, right?
Ethiopian canon,
the Gospel of Judas, right? They portray different. They portray different stories. You know,
yes, I'll say agnosticism does have a lot of Gnosticism does have a lot of texts that were not canon, and they do challenge. You know, they do challenge some of the Roman Hellenistic ways of thought. You know what I mean? But it still has a lot more. It would be more a product, and even though it veers left from them, you know what I'm saying? It would be like even Protestantism, we could say, even though they are a product of Roman Christianity, even though they broke away and then they formulated how they viewed the divinity of Christ and such in their own way. They're a child. They came off and they, you know what I'm saying, they went against their mother, you know, so, or their, you know, paternal, you know, origin. But that's a product. That's different than Ethiopia. Ethiopia had too many other influences outside of Rome to consider it just Roman. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
War Child, you and King J. What would y'all say that the Muslims hold up a text that's biblical? I want to ask first, is it in the Ethiopian canonical is called the Book of Barnabas. And where is it found if it ain't outside of Islam?
Okay, the Book of Barnabas. I'm not sure of Book of Barnabas. Let me look that up though. Go ahead, King J.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I haven't looked that one up. I'm not familiar with that as well.
Because I know the Muslims push it all the time. The Book of Barnabas.
So I would say this though. Ethiopia, even in the Pepper the Guest, they had snippets from the Quran. There was some use of Quranic texts in the Ethiopian works and transcriptions. They were not necessarily. You got to remember this too. There's a history in the Quran or in the Hadiths that speak about how Muhammad's people went to Ethiopia to be protected. Like everybody was going to Ethiopia to run from the BS, right? When people wanted to get below the radar and above the BS, they went to Ethiopia. Even from Frumentius to all of these dudes, they all went somewhere they knew that they couldn't be touched. You know, the Romans couldn't send them in. The Ottomans and stuff. The Muslims went down there. Right? They went down to Ethiopia.
Yeah. Was you looking it up though? Was you gonna look that up so we can see?
Yeah, let me see. The Book of Barnabas. Is it in the Ethiopian?
And King J, was you about to say something about
Ethiopian?
No, I'm from I know in the Muslim hadith, Barnabas, it's a different story. He's
messed up, like he say he from up there where y'all at. He say he from New York. Well, upstate.
Upstate New York? Nah, we don't claim that.
Screaming at the top of your lungs don't make you that guy. Try to watch my style and replay it, don't make you fly. Don't take a break, cause the fake like the snake. When the big dog away, all they do is clout chase. When I enter the room, all they do is bout face. Put them lions on my back, then ball with the minister. Side put me on there, everybody wanna mimic you. Yeah, I thought I told you we the toughest here. We be on the scene, niggas screen our shit. We the toughest you done seen, we the big boy clique. If he really want smoke, I pull up with him. Toughest environment, smoke city. I can tell by your energy, you ain't really woke. He showed up to debate, but he choked. No money in his pocket, boy broke. Shit, the only thing he can teach is hope. Kill a spider, drown a fish, stomp a rose, do something. But don't come on sa.neter with the stunt. Everybody over here getting money. Touche hit me up, told me go and run it. Guess I'm Carl Lewis. You looking dumb foolish. Nigga way upstate making soft music. Boy, this the toughest environment.